In 1950, tragedy would strike the life of Mr. Brown and the village of Tapton. While Mr. Robinson was chauffeuring his employer home at 11:30 a.m, he noticed ripples on the water of Tapton Lake. He immediately stopped the car and saw the horror of a young boy floating a few inches under the water's surface. Mr. Robinson jumped into action immediately, dragging the boy out and rushing him to Chesterfield Royal Hospital. Miraculously, although in shock, the boy survived. At the lakeside, however, police discovered a pushchair, empty, for the sake of a girl's blue bonnet. After asking local neighbours, this was confirmed to be Mrs. Brown's, the surviving boy's mother. While Mr. Brown looked on in certain shock and horror, a search and rescue was launched. After line dragging the lake all day, Mrs. Brown's body was discovered. Mrs. Brown had been dead for some time. However, her posture appeared to be frozen. A posture not unlike somebody cradling that of a baby. Mr. Brown's daughter was never found. 43 years later, myself and my mother would move into the family home of Mr. and Mrs. Brown. This is the story of our time there, from the perspective of my mother. Hey guys, and welcome to the Halloween edition of the SleepyTalk podcast. Now, we're joined with the usual suspects of Ryan and Steve.
Hello.
Hi.
Steve spamming mute and unmute then. You're just spamming it like... But we've also got a very special guest, as you'd know from the intro. It is my mother.
Hi.
Is that
And
what
that's
we're
it,
going to
that's
call
the
her from
end.
the whole podcast? Is my mother.
Yeah, my mother.
Okay.
You can call her Natalie if you want, or Nat.
It's just weird.
Natalie.
So I was going to call her mother as well. It seems
You
less
can
weird
do.
calling her
Luke's mum.
Natalie.
Mother. So yeah,
Issues.
so what we're going to be talking about today then, mother?
Right, today we're going to be talking about a house where we lived in 1993, and it was haunted.
Oh,
I was waiting for that noise. I was going to say that's where you put
yeah.
that.
Right, I guess take it away then.
Okay, so it was a long, long time ago, like 27 and a half years ago, so I'll try and remember what I can. Although a lot of it is actually like embedded in my brain, it was that bad. So we moved into the house on the 17th of May, 1993. I was 18 and Luke was 8 months old. It all started on the first night that we moved in. It was the first time I'd ever lived on my own, so it was a bit weird anyway. And the first night we went to bed and I switched all the lights off and got into bed, and I could hear like a clicking noise. So I went to the top of the landing and I could see downstairs that the living room light was flashing on and off. I thought it might have been a light outside, but the position of the house, there was no other houses around it. It had 1/3 of an acre of land around it, so it wasn't joined on with any neighbours. It was quite remote. So I went downstairs and yeah, the living room light was going on and off. I kind of tried to ignore it, went back upstairs and it continued, so I just left it, closed my eyes and drifted off to sleep. So that was the first night. After that, little things started happening. It wasn't constant, it wasn't an everyday thing, but every now and then, just like stuff that had happened that had made you question things. So one day I said to Luke, I says, come on, we're going to go to town. So put him in the pushchair, got to town, got there and my purse wasn't in my bag. Really weird, my purse was always in my bag. So I ended up coming home again, obviously, because I couldn't buy anything. Searched everywhere, hunted the house, high and low, no purse. 3 days later, got up, came downstairs, and in the middle of the living room was my purse on the floor with all the coins piled up on top. Luke couldn't have done it, he was far too young, he couldn't even walk at this point, so I had no idea how that happened and it just completely freaked me out.
That's what you think.
Yeah, you were like one.
Yeah, you've seen Rugrats, haven't you? So
definitely. And Luke, to be honest, he does look a bit like Chucky, but there you go. So other weird things that happened were like I'd be sat in the living room at night and all of a sudden I'd turn around and there was all steam coming from the kitchen and my kettle had been switched on. I'd switch it off and a couple of minutes later it'd happen again. And I used to get through about 6 kettles a year because they'd just burn out. Even if I unplugged them, they'd be plugged back in and I'd constantly have to keep watering them because I was just afraid that they were going to burn out, which they did most of the time anyway. Whenever I stuck a picture on the wall, I'd put a picture hook in, I'd just put the picture on, absolutely fine, come down in the morning, the pictures would be on the floor. I gave up in the end and just didn't bother putting any up because it was just ridiculous. In those days, because I'm quite old, we used to have TVs and they didn't have a remote control, but the channel would just constantly change. You'd be sat in the middle of watching something, it'd just turn over, you'd get up to switch it back, it'd change back. It was all very bizarre. Luke would constantly be talking to somebody. As he got older, obviously, he'd sit up in bed in the middle of the night. Luke never slept a night. Luke would go to sleep for 2 hours at a time and then he'd wake up. It was a nightmare, to be honest. He was 5 before he slept a whole night. And he would sit up. He'd always sleep in bed with me and he would sit up and just start talking. Before he could talk, he was blabbering away, but he was staring at something. And my friend Karen, she stayed over with us one night and she woke me up and went, who is Luke talking to? And I was like, oh, that's quite normal. He does it all the time. And she was like, nah, that is really weird. And as... I could hear voices. There was always a voice of a man in the downstairs room. I could never tell what he was saying, but it was a deep voice of a man talking. There was always, very often there'd be like a lady humming in the bathroom, which is really weird. But as soon as you'd approach to have a look, it'd just stop every time. Just trying to think. One of the weirdest things that happened was I was laid in bed and it was about 2:00 in the morning. And every night before I went to bed, I would lock the front door, take the keys out and put them on the worktop in the kitchen. This particular night, I heard the biggest bang. It was so loud, it frightened me to death. And I went running downstairs and the front door was wide open with a key in it, which absolutely freaked me out because it was like, I never felt safe anyway, but that just made it even worse that somebody or something could open my front door. It was just really weird. As Luke got older, he used to talk to a particular person. And it would probably be about 3 or 4 and he would go upstairs to get something and he would come down and just look at me and say, and I'm actually shaking now saying this, it freaks me out even to today. And he would look at me and he would say, Margaret says we need to leave now. And I would say, who's Margaret? And he used to repeat, it's Margaret's house. She lives here. We can't stay here. We need to go now. And he was a little boy. It's not something a normal child, sorry Luke, but a normal thing that a child of that age would actually say. But he said it on more than
horror movie stuff. That
really. It's absolutely, and it used to freak me out. I mean, he used to go to bed, and I'd not hear him come downstairs, but I'd turn around and he'd just be stood there saying, "We need to go. Margaret says go now." So you can understand probably why I didn't sleep very much as a child.
Margaret keeping him up all night.
It was definitely Margaret. So there was a lot of footsteps going up and down the stairs on the landing. Really, really weird. Especially when we was in bed and you'd hear somebody walking up the stairs. That was awful. So it was... Go on.
Was there any odd, would you recall any odd happenings prior or since moving or living in that house?
No, nothing. Absolutely nothing.
What was your sort of attitude towards the paranormal and supernatural prior to moving to the house?
Like I say, I was 18 years old. I'd never had any dealings with it. I'd not got an opinion on it. I don't think I really knew anything about it at all.
Okay. And was this your first living away from the family? Was that your first family?
Yeah,
sort of
definitely.
Okay.
First time I'd ever really spent a night on my own anywhere, yeah.
Right, okay. I'm just trying to think of tensions a little bit higher, a little bit nervous, because
But bearing in mind,
Yeah.
this went on for 5 years.
Okay. See, this is where I differ from people, because it happens for 5 minutes, I'm gone.
I had no choice.
As soon as my boy is like, yo, Margaret says we gotta go, I'm like, well, we gotta go then, haven't we?
That's right.
But yeah, I understand.
I didn't really have any choice.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to sort of like perhaps suggest that there was some sort of like uneasiness in the mind at the time that sort of might have encouraged, you know, the imagination, say, because obviously I'm coming from a more skeptical sort of perspective.
Definitely.
So I was trying to think, maybe where's there any sort of rational thinking behind, but I mean, it's not just you that's perhaps thinking these things up. If he's come to you talking about Margaret and he's the one staying up all night, it doesn't really matter how you feel or whether you're scared or you believe these things, because it's him that's doing all the spooky wooky stuff. So,
that's right.
I've heard brief bits and bobs. Oh, sorry, carry on.
Yeah. No, sorry, I was going to say, I mentioned my friend Karen earlier on. I've actually seen Karen tonight, and I said to her, can you remember, you know, when I lived there? Karen's been my best friend for over 40 years, so we've experienced everything together. And I said to her, can you remember when I lived at the house at Tapton? And she's like, oh, please don't, let's not go back there. I said, come on, what do you remember about it the most? And Karen is the most rational person you will ever meet. She don't believe in anything. And
I can agree with that.
She's wonderful. I love her. And she reminded me of, we shared a sunbed. We split the cost in half, but I had it in my house because she lived at home with her parents. And so I would go to work, she would come round and go on the sunbed. And obviously she knew what I was telling her that was going off, and she was really, really kind of talked me around and said, come on now, you know, get a grip. Anyway, and she reminded me this evening of when she was actually on the sunbed at my house, and she said she felt so uncomfortable, and to the point where she daren't open her eyes, and she forced herself to open her eyes, and she says the only way she can describe it is, you know, when you see heat in a desert and it's all a bit wibbly wobbly.
Yeah.
She says there was a person, an outline of a person stood there, but it was all kind of moving. And she says it was like a man was stood staring at her like 3 feet away. And Karen actually grabbed her stuff, ran out the house, left the door open, and got dressed in the garden. She was that terrified. And she says she still can't even think about it because it absolutely freaks her out.
So the spooky wookies turn into the wibbly wobblers.
The wibbly wobblers.
Wibbly wobblers. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, geez. So, did you ever find anything out about any potential Margaret or any odd happenings that might have?
Yeah. So, I mean, there was one day when I went. I used to work in hairdressers, so I went to work, and this is years after. I was working in the hairdressers, and I was washing this lady's hair, and she says, I was speaking away as you do, and I said, like, where do you live? And she says, I live at Tapton. I says, oh, I used to live at Tapton. And she asked me where, so I told her, and she said, not number 15. I said, yeah. She went, oh, why? She was an elderly lady, and she said, oh, right, my husband used to work with the man who lived there. And I said, oh, right. I said, do you know anything about the family? And she said, I remember that the wife took the children and walked into the pond and drowned. And the mother and the baby drowned, and there was an older child that was resuscitated. Somebody found them, and yeah, but I don't know any more than that. And then the man died in an accident not long afterwards.
You told me about that before, haven't you, Luke?
Yeah. So I obviously
that,
from my recollection is completely wrong to what my mum said. Everything's similar, but my recollection of it was different.
You were very young.
Yeah, but the intro actually covers this bit. I've got the newspaper article.
Okay.
Scrolling through, talking about it. So yeah, the elder boy, he did drown, but he was resuscitated. Margaret was found either the day after or that evening, and the baby was never found.
And obviously, you're not to know at the time you're talking about Margaret saying you've got to leave anything about a Margaret, because Margaret
Yeah,
only
because this
comes into
happened
the
in the
picture for you
1950s.
guys years later, innit? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 43 years after this
Hmm.
happened is when we moved into that house.
Hmm.
So I always said that there was a man and a woman because I could hear him speaking. One particular night, it all came to a climax one night, and then the next day it just all exploded. I'd gone to bed early. I'd got a migraine, so I was laid in bed, and I could hear Luke running around in his bedroom. Bearing in mind, I think he was about 4. Yeah, it'd have been 4, and he was running around in his bedroom. Also, I thought, I was like, for crying out loud, I need to go to sleep. My head is banging. So I got up and I went into his bedroom and I switched the light on, and Luke was fast asleep. But he had a really thick pile carpet, and you could see indentations in the carpet of like somebody running around. So I absolutely freaked out. I grabbed Luke, ran straight into my bedroom, which was completely opposite. I slammed the door. I put things up to the door. I got in bed, pulled the sheets over my head. That it laid there all night. It was absolutely terrifying. It was awful. The next day, my friend was coming to pick me up around 10 o'clock, and I couldn't wait for her to come. Literally stood outside on the street waiting for her to come, didn't want to be in the house. And it was a bit of a snowy day as well. So we went out, walked for hours, literally for hours. And she kept saying to me, if you don't want to go back to the house, you can come and stop at mine. And I was like, no, I can't keep doing this. You know what I mean? I've got a home that I'm just avoiding all the time. So went back home, made tea, went upstairs to get Luke's pajamas in this room. I was bending over in the bottom drawer getting his pajamas, and you know how when you see it on films how it goes really cold, and you see people's breath and all that when all the spooky stuff starts. That
It's a bit
didn't
of a trope in
happen.
those kind of films.
Yeah, that didn't happen. The whole atmosphere completely drained out the room. It was like there was no atmosphere whatsoever. And I just felt like the 3 people were stood behind me watching me. It were incredible. I ran downstairs, I grabbed Luke, like I say, it was snowing. I stuck him on a sledge. I ran down the road to my friend's house. I didn't lock the door. He didn't have a coat on. I don't even think he had shoes on. I didn't have a coat, and I just burst through my friend's front door, and I was like, please help me, I can't cope with this. And her dad had to go up. I had to give him my key out of my bag, and her dad had to go up and lock and secure the house up because I just couldn't go back. And I rang my mum. And my mum ended up ringing her friend who was a minister at Brimington Church. And he came round the next day. I met him there. I left Luke with my friend. And I had a chat with him about it. It was a family friend, so, you know, he knew I were a bit nuts anyway. So so I literally took him around the house. And he was originally from Liverpool. And he had actually experienced things while he was a minister in Liverpool. So he says, I've not done this for a while, but let's go around and have a look. So I took him around the whole house, and he was really interested in everything. So when we got into the bedroom, Luke's bedroom, he went, whoa. And he pointed to the corner where Luke used to stand and talk to Margaret, where I thought the people were stood behind me. And he just basically said, there is a vortex and they are trapped there. He says, I am telling you now. He says, these people do not know how to go to the other side. So he got some holy water out, which I thought was a bit weird. And he went around the whole house. But when he got to this corner in the bedroom, he was praying, and he was telling them to be at peace and go towards the light and all this. And the whole thing must have lasted about an hour in total from him getting there to finishing. But literally, as soon as he finished praying that prayer, I'm not kidding, it was like a cloud had lifted from above the house, and it was the nicest house to live in after that, and I never had any problems whatsoever.
I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I'm just like,
Wow.
I've got my head in my hands right now, just like hanging on to everything you're saying. Like, and then what? Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got a question. It's partially for both you and Luke.
Shoot.
How did Luke feel about it? Or was he scared at all? Was
Not at
anything
all.
like that?
No,
Nothing
at all.
it was just matter of fact. It just took every day as it came. He never freaked out about it. It was what it was, and it just carried on.
I'm pretty similar now, let's be fair.
Yeah, it's true.
How do you feel these days with him? I mean, after an experience like that with him, wanting to go ghost hunting and perhaps antagonize the ghosts of axe-wielding murderers and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know. Luke's going to do what Luke wants to do. He's always been that kind of a person, and he's got a good head on his shoulders, I think.
So, any sort of, probably not on that level, because that is some sort of horror film type stuff that you've described there. Anything odd in his behaviour or that you've experienced at all since then?
Nothing whatsoever.
So.
Really?
No. Well, nothing we can talk about.
I mean that, well, I don't know whether you remember because it never actually happened to you, but can you not remember when I started vlogging on YouTube, Mum?
Oh yeah, of course I can.
I'll not say any more. Go.
Mm-hmm. With the wardrobe experience.
Yeah, this hasn't been prepped, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to say the infamous.
Obviously,
that's why I said the vlogging when I started vlogging. I didn't want to
Yeah. So when you was talking, you were sat on your bedroom floor and you were talking, and all of a sudden you can't see it, but we can. Your wardrobe doors started moving in and out, and there were like little orbs floating around.
Mm-hmm.
That was weird.
I'm not surprised after everything you've just described that you forgot. I'm not surprised at all. That's a walk in the park compared to
that's nothing.
Else, but So, do you think, Luke, your interest in all things paranormal and supernatural at the moment, or for however long you've had this interest, just stems completely from these experiences?
100%. That's
because
as simple as answer.
You're not really fully on board with it, from what I understand. It's like you want there to be a clarity behind the wonder, whereas somebody like me, who's probably on the same sort of level as you in terms of believing in it, is just like, I'm not bothered either way. Like, if it happens, it happens. It's not, but you'll go out of your way to find it. I think that's probably what that's led to. Because I find it odd that after you've been through all of that, and I've had no experiences like that at all, I've so quickly come around to maybe there is. Whereas if you've been you've gone through that, and you're in the same in the same. But I just find that an interesting. Our perspectives, our journeys to this point have been very different, but we've got a very similar perspective now. I just dread to think where I would be if I'd been through what you'd been through. At this point, I would probably be out there with all the gizmos and gadgets and my Ghostbusters outfit, looking for everything.
I mean, to be fair, I don't really remember much of that house. I don't remember a lot of it. I don't know whether that's because I was too young, or maybe my brain's found a way to lock it away. But I remember was it David, the minister?
Yeah.
So I remember David coming round. I remember that sort of scene.
Yeah.
I remember my mum being upset, and I thought it was the toaster, but I remember the kettle always burning out.
Yeah, you've told me about toasters before.
I don't think we were posh enough for a toaster then, Lou.
Well,
single mother and all that.
I have to kind of try and make out to my friends that we're rich. Do you know what I mean?
Sorry, we didn't even have a remote control for telly, love.
But we had a TV, and that was
we did,
in them days.
And it was colour.
Yeah. But yeah, I remember snippets, but I don't remember that sort of thing, seeing anything.
The doors just slammed behind me. That wasn't nice. I didn't like that.
Oh, jeez.
How old were you back then, Luke?
From about 1 year old till
you were 8 months old when we moved in, and it was just before you were 5.
There you go.
When it all ended.
How did you stay there for so long?
When you're actually living in it, you do feel like you're going off your head, and you're questioning everything because there's no evidence or anything actually happening. It's like if you hear people walking up and down your stairs, you can tell your friends the next day, but you sound like a complete nutter.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
it doesn't happen the next night or for a few weeks. So you're like, well, obviously I must have just misheard, and it must be windy outside or something, or I must have left a window open. So yeah, even talking about this tonight, I do feel like I must have gone through some sort of psychosis for a few years, because it's crazy. It's crazy talk. It's not normal to have this discussion.
It is on this podcast.
Yeah,
Of course, yeah, sorry.
It sounds like you just read it out of a book.
Well,
It's that detailed.
It does, like, especially with him, like, being able to communicate with his Margaret. But he has given us snippets and bits and bobs which correlate with what you're saying. Like, well, he said toaster before, but kettle. You can forgive that easily as a kid. You know what I mean? So,
well,
like,
you can keep reminding him.
Yeah, it's yeah. You weren't posh enough for a toaster, mate. Shut up. It's sort of like backed up a lot of what he said before, and even like it's not related to this, but the wardrobe incident, where I've always been like, mate, whatever, I'm not buying that at all. Now I'm a little bit like, okay, maybe just because this happened prior, unrelated, that now has more credibility. It's odd. So do you question things more now?
It's all right. My daughter's just appeared from a door behind me. Don't do that. Go away. So, will you just repeat the question? Sorry.
Yeah, so do you like question, like, because obviously beforehand you wasn't really into it. The experience happened. You had the resolution. The minister came around, made everything fine.
Yeah.
But do you still find yourself a bit more spooked now than you was before at perhaps strange happenings?
Probably. Yeah. You know, when you've lived through something like that, you kind of have a clarity of these things do happen and it is real. So there's lots of programs on telly, aren't there? And I think, you know, I can sit and watch them. I don't get spooked out watching them because I just think, oh, I've had it worse. You know, that weren't as bad as what happened to me, sort of thing. But yeah, I don't know. It's crazy because, like I said, it's not normal.
No.
And you do question, even when it's happening and you can hear it and you can see things moving and things dropping off the walls and kettles turning themselves on, you know, you do question it as you are actually there witnessing it. And, you know, it was great when I had friends around who actually witnessed it as well, because they could actually say, actually, not Natalie, you know, you're not going off your head. I've just seen, not quite. But it's weird. It's weird.
Blimey. I don't know, just the whole, I'm just like, the way you've said it as well is just like, it's probably just shaking me a bit. Like, I'm just looking around the room just a little bit, like every now and then. Now I wish I never turned the light off and the lamp on. I wish I still had the full light on in my bedroom now. That's because obviously that's why I wanted to check your attitudes on it, because if you're not as into it as Luke is, then you're not really going to try to make it as sort of to grab people as much. Are you?
No,
a piece of entertainment or something. So
no.
So
in fairness, it did take me a while to get her on here.
So would you, for instance, if you know Luke was to say, "Do you want to come on this ghost hunting trip?" Would you be in any way interested? No, you just want to leave it alone now. Yeah, okay.
I'd only come to annoy Luke. That is the only reason I would go.
That's the only reason I'm going to go. Don't worry.
You're going in first now.
Yeah. As I've got older, I'm probably a little bit more. As I've got older, I'm probably a little bit more scared as well. So. I'm a teenager. Everything just washed off me in them days. But I think now I don't think I could cope with it if I had to do it again.
Yeah,
I would leave.
I could understand that.
Yeah.
Any contact or any information or anything regarding that address since? Have you heard anything? Has anybody told you about any other? It's
actually a really nice house now.
Somebody has bought it and spent an absolute fortune on it, and it is beautiful. And I wish I could afford it. I'd move back there knowing it's not haunted anymore. It's stunning. I love it. Yeah. The house, I'd forgot to say that the house was originally built for when Charles Markham, he lived in Tapton House, and the house was originally built for his coachman. So if you look on an old map of Tapton, there's only two houses. One is Tapton House and one is the coachman's cottage, which is where I used to live.
And that's what it was. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else odd happen in the area? Do you know of, or was it just that one at the time or since?
As far as I know that Tapton House is haunted because I went to school there, and there was a lot. I never saw anything, but a lot of cleaners left because there used to be a lot of hauntings in there. So that's as much as I know about that. But about the area, no, not really.
No, I was thinking
It's a college now.
It is. It's an innovation centre.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't. There was never any sort of. They say that spirits hang around because some unclosed or unresolved something or other. No clues at all as to what might have occurred. What would have drove her to walk into the lake with the kids?
No, I'd be interested though to find out.
Yeah,
but no.
What's more worrying is the baby that's still not being found.
Oh gosh, yeah. And I walked past the pond as well a few months ago. It was a bit creepy when I walked past.
So wait, Luke, you moved in. You was months old when you moved in. How old was he when he was talking?
He was 8 months old. When he was talking, it was literally as soon as he could talk, which was about not long after that.
Do we know how old this alleged baby, would have been?
I don't know.
I've no idea. It was in a pushchair though, so it would be in the months.
That could have been some sort of reason why they're communicating with him.
Did the newspaper article, Luke, say something about when the mum was found? She was kind of in a position like her arms were cradling a baby.
Yeah. So she drowned while she was cradling the baby, and it seems like when she finally sort of like dies, she still stayed in that position. So it was as she was like frozen in time. But
That's
the baby
so sad.
had like fallen out, but the current had dragged her a long way.
Has there been any books, films, or anything like that on this?
Not on this, not as far as I know. But I mean, there's lots of books about strange things in Tapton, isn't there? And in Chesterfield, sorry. So maybe, I don't know. Who knows?
I've looked for a lot of things. That was the only article I could find, and it's a snippet of the article. So the article actually goes, it was back in those A3 newspapers, you know, the ones that you have to fold over to sort of read. So I've only got like, I've only got the top half of that, and it's got like something about a new reverend being a different place and things like that on it. So I've only got like 2 different paragraphs that don't intertwine with each other because it goes off on a long thing.
Yeah.
So, I distinctly kind of remember, or maybe I'm making this up, but you can let me know.
I will.
Was something to do with a bird and maybe a squirrel dying there. As in,
I don't remember that.
Wasn't there a bird in the bathroom or something?
Yeah.
It sounds like a Dr. Seuss book. Sorry, carry on. You're getting it confused with a book in childhood.
So this it's kind of to do with it, but it's like nothing to do with it. But so while all these haunting weirdo things were happening, there was an incident where some birds had got into under the roof, but they'd fallen down the side of the cavity wall, and somehow they'd got under the bath. So I could hear all this banging going off, and there's about 5 birds trapped under my bath, and it was a plastic bath panel, so they're all banging against this. So I'm like looking at my bath panel, just moving and shaking, and all this banging, and so I'm absolutely terrified. And I rang my dad, and they obviously took the side of the bath panel off, and all these little birds flew out. But I mean, it was just something and nothing. But as it happened at the time when all this was going off, it was just unreal. It was crazy.
That would have tipped me over the edge.
Yeah.
Even if I saw the birds coming out, the fact that there were birds under the bath would have because that's another like horror movie trope. If they were black birds, I would have been so out of it. Like,
I don't even remember what colour they were, because I jumped up and I literally landed on my dad and knocked him into a wall. It was really coincidental. It was brilliant timing.
Wow. God, you've been through the ringer with this stuff.
Yeah.
It's amazing how I don't remember talking to a ghost, but I remember a bird coming. Mind you, a bird coming out of a bath is pretty spectacular.
You went to school and told everybody, didn't you?
No, I wasn't even in school. I was too young.
Sorry. Yeah. Oh gosh. So, would you? I'm just trying to sort of understand like how that affects you like now, especially with Luke sort of still being into it. Like he said it was hard enough to get you on here. Why would you have been reluctant to even just talk
Honestly,
about it?
so I am now a Christian. I've been a Christian for the last 12 years, and I actually work in a Pentecostal church. And
Right.
I didn't know what other people's views would be on me doing this. So I've not really told many people that I'm actually doing it, just because I don't want to hear other people's. I don't care about other people's opinions in that way, because I know that I'm not myself. If I thought I were doing something wrong, I wouldn't do it.
Yes.
And I don't feel like I've done anything wrong, because I'm not promoting anything, and I'm just speaking about my experiences.
You don't want to let yourself get judged by other people's standards.
Yeah, exactly, because we're not supposed to judge. There you go.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So, if anything else odd was to happen, straight on the phone to the minister, is that the answer?
Oh, absolutely. But
Yeah.
I'd phone the minister I work for now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could probably do it myself.
You know what I mean?
There you go.
Just some overtime at home or something. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Geez. So do you feel that the experience encouraged you to take up the faith?
No, not at all.
For want of better wording, sorry.
No, nothing to do with that whatsoever. Because like my Christian journey started like 12 years ago, when I was like 32, 33. So it's quite a while after living at Tapton. But one thing it has done is I've moved house about 3 times since then, and you know, you are a little bit apprehensive when you go into a new house and you're kind of waiting. You know, the first few weeks of moving in, you're kind of waiting for something
most people
to happen.
Are looking out for like damp spots or something.
Yeah,
like
no,
that. You know what I mean?
I don't mind them.
You're looking for cold spots in the room. Standing before like, cold here, I'm out.
Lights, yeah.
My mum and dad did an absolute madness on the house that they're living in now, because you're talking about damp spots. There were fleas in the carpets. There were loads of stuff. They didn't care about that.
Didn't care.
As long as there weren't no spooky wookies.
Wibbly wobblers.
Wibbly wobblers.
Yeah.
Well, that throws it off for me, because I was, I'm interested in why people believe the things they believe, or looking for answers in things. And quite often you're like, well, it must have come from the parents a bit, but I don't think from the sounds of it there was much, if any, influence on Luke being interested in this now from you at all.
No, I don't think so.
No.
I think if that were the case, I'd have my own Christian journey as well, which I don't. I think if there was influence from my mum, I'd probably be a lot like her.
But that's why I asked, like, do you think that Christian journey was sort of triggered by this experience? And as the answer was no.
No.
Yeah, I mean, if it was, then maybe I would have expected you to perhaps follow that as well, but they're separate things. Damn.
Steve.
Hello.
I forgot you were there.
Participate.
I've been trying, Ryan.
He's hiding in the
corner.
Yeah. He's enjoyed the last couple of weeks about me, hasn't he? Yeah. Yeah, sorry.
Go on then, Steve.
He's pretty much covered everything.
Yeah, I do.
Go to say something and he says it.
Sorry. I get told off.
No, it's fine. Just have her.
What?
We'll just leave. Yeah. Yeah, that's not what this podcast is about, man. Oh, no.
I said we're all inclusive, but come on, man.
Yeah.
Hello, I am
Yeah.
So, how does it feel? How do you feel like hearing that? Have you ever like heard that from your mum before? Like just the telling of the whole thing.
I've heard bits. I've heard bits in conversation. That's really why I've got things mixed up. But obviously,
to be fair, we've not tried to make it into a big deal, have we? I mean, obviously, Luke lived there, and you shielded it from him. You know, I didn't want him to be scared, and he wasn't, which was amazing, because I didn't want to have a terrified child in the house as well. So it's not really. Sometimes it's spoken about, you know, but it's not. We don't live in it. We don't live in that moment still. So. But I mean, every now and again we'll say, "Okay, remember when we lived at Tapton and this happened?" But yeah, I suppose we've just pieced it all together tonight, really, haven't we?
Yeah, it's pretty much you saying, "Can you remember when we lived at Tapton?" And I go, "No."
Yeah. Well, let me tell you about the
birds,
ghosts.
the birds in the bath. But no, I mean, for me, I think that did me a world of good, because I want to do the is it Killarmarsh Tunnel?
Yeah.
I want to do that, and I'm excited about it. You know,
I'm bricking it.
I've just bought a new camera for infrared. You know, get that night vision going.
Yeah, for the ghost hunting, right?
Yeah, for the ghost hunt. Yeah, you know, we're gonna go. We're gonna have fun, and if we do see something great, fantastic. You know, it's going to be great.
This is where we differ, because if we do see something, it's not really great and fantastic from where I imagine anyway.
It is, because we've proved something. There's actual physical proof.
Oh gosh.
Well, I wouldn't say there's physical proof, but I'd say we've
spiritual
found
proof.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh.
We found something that kind of adds a little bit more evidence into sort of something else being there. But the only thing that I won't do is touch a Ouija board.
No, I won't let you.
No.
I'll never touch a Ouija board.
You see, like Ouija boards, I don't understand with like the ranking of these sorts of supernatural, paranormal things. Some things are like no, some things are like yeah, whatever.
Go on, Mum.
Other things, people
explain it.
Encouraged to
please
experience.
Do to him.
I don't know. That's just weird, isn't it? A Ouija board. I mean, I think if natural occurrences happen, that's completely different from encouraging anything that's like not nice, evil to come through and mess with you. Because if you encourage something, and I do believe you can, but I don't believe you should. If you can encourage something that's not nice to come through, is that ever going to leave you? How do you reverse it and make them go away?
Yeah,
it's one of those for me, right? Whether I believe in the spooky wooky stuff or not, which I'm kind of on the fence about. If I didn't believe it, I still wouldn't do it, just for that little chance that it is real.
Because you don't know, innit? Yeah.
Yeah, and if I realise that it is real because of that, I'm in for a shit time.
You want to start off baby steps.
Yeah, so it's like yeah. So, I mean, I remember going to a house party and somebody brought out a Ouija board and I left. Like, I was out. I was gone. Nothing happened to them, and don't. That's so patronising from you. No, but I left because that is one thing about this thing that scares me. Is that is the unknown. Going to a place, because I think if they are real, I think they're geographically locked, so they're in a spot that they can't leave from. I don't think there's roaming ghosts that like follow you around.
I'd like to think that they can attach themselves to locations or people or things.
Yeah, although
there's roaming to a point. I think the biggest I've known of, I might be wrong on this, but like, you know, when you got a big house and their grounds, when you got like acres of grounds. I know of one where there's supposed to be a white woman, headless woman, that roams all them grounds, but it's still one location, but it's a big location.
One location,
yeah.
But I think if there's anything, it's just going to be energy that's left behind. I think if you frequent in a place and you obviously energy doesn't get destroyed, it just gets transferred,
yeah. See, that's what makes it. I think it's like your consciousness, like that's got to be some form of energy, right? It's not just the concepts that we think up, even though our consciousness is all in our head. So could it be something? So where does that go? Like,
So this
surely
is
that
the thing,
might be able to manifest some way, perhaps.
we have electricity in us. We are electrical. You know, your neurons firing and things like that in your brain. It's electricity, it's energy. We consume energy in order to carry on living and exert our even more energy when we're moving and things like that. So I think, say like a man walks to work every single day for his adult life and then he dies, and then do you not think that his energy might be seen walking to work every single day after his death?
But it sort of ties into my I'll call them out there beliefs on just everything that we experience, really. In that, like, you expel energy, that, like, where does that energy go? Does it just float around there? Does it like it's a bit hard without going on a massive tangent, which I've been, trying to avoid this whole Sleepy Talk journey, not just this episode.
Really?
But yeah, like you say, like, if someone's repeatedly doing that, there's more out there. We know there's more out there that we can't see, we can't smell, we can't hear. So what if that energy that is expelled during that, for instance, that walking back and forth to work, is just something that floats around that eventually does manifest, or something triggers it to manifest into something else? We know air is there, we can't see it. Why not some other kind of energy or molecule or whatever, something else out there? But it's just figuring out how to tap into it.
Exactly. Color spectrum as well, that's another one.
It's like dogs randomly spaz out sometimes, for want of a better wording, sorry. You know what I mean? They're sleeping, all of a sudden they're up at attention. I've seen it before, and it's like, well, maybe they've heard something that we, in a frequency we haven't heard. Kids as well, from the moment we're born, we're dying, that thing. So from the minute we're born, are we losing abilities? Obviously we can't recall them because we lose them when we're so young. Maybe we are more in tune with nature or something, because everything that occurs on this planet is natural, or everything that naturally occurs on this planet is natural, but we can't physically experience it all. But maybe we can when we're born, when we're more in touch with nature, before society and the way we live now is sort of dragged us away from that a bit.
As a basic construct, right? So as a really, really basic. Have you heard of them alarms that people put in the gardens to stop yobs from loitering around?
Yeah,
stop
the
kids.
super high pitched. Asbo
so
alarms.
we can't hear them. Yeah, so we've lost that sense of that decibel.
Was it like 26 years old or something like that, weren't it? That it disappears?
Something like
away?
that. So I'm past that. So maybe that's.
I never heard it.
But that's probably a good sort of structure or foundation for it, is that you lose frequencies, being able to hear frequencies. So what's to say that you don't lose certain colours? Or I know when babies are born, they can't actually see as much as what we can, but they see blurred. But it's not to say that they don't see like a million different colours, and then eventually they focus those colours.
Yeah, I
into
mean,
what
as a child, if
seeing.
you're being shown things, you're being presented things as a child, and your brain focuses on these things. So, as your brain develops, as your body gets rid of things it doesn't need. And if, as a child, when you're constantly having to be fed experiences and stimulation, if certain stimulations aren't presented to you, then the ability to pick them up is just disregarded by the brain. Maybe. That sort of ties into what I said about babies looking in the mirror and seeing spirits and whatever. Like, it sort of makes sense when you apply that theory to it, that maybe they can and we lose the ability to.
I'm not going to debunk that one again, but
yeah. That's why I said it. No, I get that. Yeah. It's debunked,
I'm not going down that rabbit hole.
You still don't know, though, do you?
No, we still don't know. We still don't know. And that theory that I read, that's like sense of self and things like that.
Yeah.
It could be complete balderdash. Codswallop.
It could be a cop out by the Freemasons who fed us this information to lead us away from the truth of what we are.
Yeah, exactly.
Got the Freemasons in again. I'm happy. Right.
Okay.
Wondered how long.
Yeah, wow. He's lasted 48 minutes.
Jeez.
So, is that everything, Mother?
I think so.
You think?
I think.
I don't want to stop this recording, and then you go, oh no, wait.
Do you know what? I can't even remember. I think so. I think I've covered everything, which I think is quite a lot, really.
Would you find it just as distressing going through a similar experience a second time at this point in your life? Do you think you'd be able to like control? You'd cope with it any better, or would it make it even worse because it's happened a second time?
That's a really good question.
You should just get the minister quicker.
Exactly. I think it's moved away now. So yeah, I probably realised what was happening rather than think that I was going mad. And probably just try and sort it out. Even if I did think I was going mad, I'd probably just, try and sort it out sooner rather than later and not let it linger. Because it did get worse and worse, and it's not a good place to be, really. But yeah.
To be fair, this is the only story I've heard, real or, in the media or as entertainment, that actually ended with the minister doing his job. Normally, that's like midway through and it didn't work.
That's right.
So, I'm a little bit reassured that, perhaps, these guys can get the job done if it is needed, at least.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or just get the right one.
Yeah, because I think, probably he did say he'd actually seen it before in Liverpool, and he'd actually gone out in these exorcisms, if you want to call them. I don't know. And so he had the experience, even though he'd never done it himself. He'd been witness to a few that he'd actually been out on, so he knew what he was doing. So maybe that's the answer. Maybe you need proper training. Who knows?
Actual Ghostbusters, man.
That's right.
Christian Ghostbusters.
Called David.
Oh, nice. Well, I feel like I've just been sat like at the cinema and watched an intense movie, but all I've really been doing is just taking what you've said and just sort of running it in my head. And yeah, I feel like I've been through watched a mildly distressing sort of
wouldn't it have been interesting? Wouldn't it have been interesting if we'd have had mobile phones in those days and I could have actually got some evidence? But hey.
Oh, geez, yeah. SleepyTalk will probably be way further than it is now.
I'd have my own show.
Yeah.
Called the Wibbly Wobblies.
The Wibbly Wobblies.
No, it's been fun.
Yeah, and the sleep with light on.
I was going to say, I was about to say, glad to see the thing hasn't completely shaken you.
No, not till tonight.
A bit stronger than I am. I would have been. I don't even want the opportunity to to experience it, let alone not even having the choice to go through that,
Yeah.
So if we get 10 likes on this video, we'll bring Ryan on the next ghost hunt so we can experience it.
You might, when you know it's going to happen anyway, you might as well go for more likes.
Yeah. Sorry, Mum, I interrupted you.
That's all right. I'm used to it. Don't worry.
That's your fault for my upbringing.
I know, darling. I know.
What were you going to say?
I don't know. I can't remember now.
Oh. Cool.
It is quite late on this Hallows Eve.
Yes.
Isn't it? Yeah.
It is.
Yes.
So, I think we'll close that off there. Everyone
I thoroughly
okay with
enjoyed
that?
it, though. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I have.
Good. I enjoyed
Thank you
it
very
too.
much, Natalie.
You're welcome.
Thanks for
It was
coming, Mum.
I think it's the best story we've had.
No offense, Luke. No. I didn't want to say it. I'm like, out of some stories I've heard, this is definitely scoring the 10. Definitely.
Oh yeah.
It's 5 out of 5 spooky wookies, guys.
Yeah. And I owe you
Just
some
a
wine for
disclaimer.
messing you up and making you have to be up this late, apparently. So I'll get that sent over to you with Luke's next order of e-liquid.
He's not joking.
I'm just in...
What wine do you want?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
I don't want any wine, Luke.
No, stop whining and pick your wine.
I like a Shiraz.
A Shiraz,
Shiraz.
yeah? Okay,
Shiraz.
cool. I'll do my best.
Thank
At least
you.
this way, it's just so Luke can't bash me like for failing. I'm like, well, I made up for it, so just deal with it. Put it in the past.
To be fair though, are you glad that you came?
Yeah, 100%. I was wounded that I thought I'd messed it up twice, and I only messed it up once. I was wounded. I was looking forward to it. To be fair, it's gone a lot smoother, and it's a bit more opening to these situations than I thought it was going to be. So yeah, worth it, worth the time. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Mum.
You're welcome.
Thank
All right, thank you.
Right, thanks for listening to the Halloween edition of the Sleepy Talk podcast. I think it is better when we get guests on to do all the work and then we just ask questions. I think it flows a lot better. I think maybe we've found the secret recipe for these podcasts. So I don't think my mum's got any more stories, so you'll probably not see or hear her again.
None that you want to hear.
Yep.
She'll be on my podcast. Don't worry, it's fine.
The Sharon gang. Hey, you can plug it now. You've started uploading.
Oh yeah, I do a new thing now. It's not just e-liquid I do now. I talk about anime and video games and make videos
Awesome.
around them as well. Don't patronize me.
He's not talking to you. So yeah, link to that will be in the description. Steve doesn't actually do anything other than
just
have
work.
children. So we'll leave that one there. So yeah, if you want to check out Steve, then you come to the Sleepy Talk channel.
Exclusive to Sleepy Talk.
Exactly, you know, he's yeah, cool. Thanks. So yeah, my mum didn't actually do anything either, so no links for
I
her.
don't do anything.
So just under an hour. Congratulations, guys! We've beat the 29-minute mark.
Oh, was that the goal? I didn't know.
Yeah. We got to that point and it went a bit stale, and I was like, do you remember the animals? The birds?
Hey, your mom took us for a ringer. Like, honestly, I feel like I've been through an experience. I've just been sat
To
in
be
my
fair,
chair.
mate, I could cut this at 18 minutes and it'd still be a banger of a podcast. It would still be a banger. If anything,
She
we've
explained
ruined it.
that well.
We've soiled it towards the end. So, right,
Thanks,
anyway,
Ryan.
I'm going to sign this off and take care.